Hello, everyone. Welcome back or welcome to PopCuktX. This is our Little Talks, our conversation series where we chat with a wide variety of creative-minded people. Today, we're thrilled to welcome back a former guest of the show, and that is Gelsey Laurie. Welcome back, Gelsey.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. We were just talking about, I can't believe how long it's been, but here we are.
Yeah, it has been a while, and that's fine because that allows I guess both of us to grow and to, expand our horizons, so to speak.
Yeah. If you talk to me all the time, it'd be boring. You'd be like,
Yeah.
well, we know what you're doing.
That's right. If we had you on every show, it'd be like, well, what's new with you? Nothing. But now we have something to talk about, so that's really cool.
Yes.
I know we talked before, and you were a stunt performer. You've gone through acrobatics. You have your own podcast, which is still there, and I still listen to it, and it's really cool. It's called Before My Time with Gelsey Laurie, and it's fascinating because it hits on a lot of topics that were before your time.
Yeah. It's a little pop culture history lesson with a twist of me being like, what the fuck?
Right. And now I know I do follow you on Instagram, and if out there, if you're not following Gelsey yet, go do so because she's going to be blowing up even more than she already is.
Oh.
And you are now reinventing yourself once more.
I am. I feel like that's been honestly the theme of my life is if I look back on my whole life, even as a child, like the careers as a child, because I think there can be somewhat of a career, even if it's like what sport you're into and what you're focusing. And it's like, I've reinvented myself so many times, but I have to say by doing so, every single thing I've done in my life has been like a stepping stone. So it's like, I feel like even though I might turn drastic corners, first of all, it's always in entertainment, really. So it's like, you're not that extreme, but within like the avenues I've gone down, every single thing has helped the next into it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's really cool. I can see how you started out as a dancer from a very young age, and that led into your acrobatic
circus career,
which led into your stunt performing career.
Yeah.
And I can see how they all have been, like you said, a stepping stone.
Yeah, they've really helped. I mean, like my ballet foundation alone supported everything. Like that's like the, basic mathematics of high science and whatever kind of it is. It's like my martial arts training came so easily, not easily. That's totally a lie. I trained really hard. And I know, you know, that you kind of followed me in the pandemic, and I was like kicking like a mad woman for hours in my backyard, like fighting off ghosts. But my ballet background really helped technically me be able to already have that foundation to stand on one leg for an endless
the balance of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I'm grateful for everything I've done. Sometimes I have a hard time letting go of who I was in any of my reinventings. And when I decide to take a new step, I'm excited for it. But sometimes it's hard to let go of the past and what I used to be able to do. Because a lot of the things, because I'm not training them, like I can't. Like when I was in Cirque du Soleil, like I can't do half of what I used to be able to do because I don't train. And and I'm okay. Like my body doesn't hurt as bad, or, I've like lost a lot of upper body bulk, which I didn't want, anymore. I'm in my feminine era now, but there's still a part of like, my self-worth I have to struggle with keeping like knowing that I am enough without all of that. And it's like, oh, but I used to be able to do that, and I was like, that made me cooler, or people, it's an interesting thing, and it's something I've explored a lot in therapy and explored a lot with myself. And so I think it's kind of like a good personal exercise for me to actually kind of shed my skin every 5 to 10 years, if you will, and move on, because it's like getting me to not hoard identity and personal value in that way.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I mean, I just myself looking back on like what you said, I was out for like a run the other day, and I was like, man, I used to be able to run like 10, 12 miles with no problem. Here I am, my knee's hurting after 2 miles. And it's like, what happened? Why am I not able to do that? But then again,
you get like mad at yourself almost. You're like, I let myself go. I did this to myself. I failed. Because I used to be, say, at this certain level. But instead of looking at it that way, it's just like part of it is aging, and that's a hard pill to swallow. We're still young. I still know I'm young in retrospect, but for my career, for my line of work, and for what I've done, it's I'm not as young as I used to be, and I'm sure it's like you said your knees hurt. My knees hurt so bad. Every time I like squat down, they pop so loud. People across the room look over. They're like, what the hell? And it's like also learning how to give yourself that grace. That's been like the theme of my life for the last 3 years. And I like almost hate it because everyone's like, give yourself grace, but it really has been something I'm really trying to embrace. And part of that is slowing down a little bit and aging and knowing that, yeah, you used to run 10 miles with no problem. And now it kind of hurts. And it's like, yeah, maybe you didn't keep up with it as much. And that's okay because you have different priorities now. But it's like accepting that you're still out for a run and it's okay that you just did 2 miles and accepting that like, pain is there because it's like we are, we have to like treat our bodies differently. And that's something I've really, really had to like look at, having to treat my body differently because of how much I've put it through in the last 15, if not more years. Yeah. And now just like finding that grace, and I'll always be a mover, and I do hold the standards high. And so that's hard for me to be like, oh, I should be doing this and I should be at this level and I should, but I forget who said it. It was a podcast I was listening to. It's like, you should never should on yourself, which I was like, I love that. Don't shit on yourself.
Don't shit on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like giving ourselves that grace of like, you know what, I did something today and that's enough, or finding a new way to maybe slow it down, tone it down, but still accelerate in other ways to feel like you're achieving, and that is kind of, again, in that reinventing. And I think a part of it for me, I just like to reinvent. I think we live one life. So I'm like, I want to try as much as I can. And all these things that I've done, I always thought about when I was a little girl. So I'm just kind of giving myself the opportunity to try everything. It's awesome. Even everyone listening, we haven't even talked about my new venture. So I'm getting into burlesque. And burlesque is like what's next for me. And I've been working pretty hard at it. And it's, and you think, okay, it's just like stripping, but it's an art and it's a vintage art form. And it's so much fun. But I literally, when I was 10 years old, my family, we took a trip to Paris and I went to the Moulin Rouge, and it's a topless show. And it's just beautiful. It's kind of like Jubilee and showgirl, topless, rhinestone G-string. And I was obsessed with it. All I wanted to do. I have the program still in my closet that I got when I was 10. We got the CD and I would dance around, but I would literally, like, my parents would be watching TV on a Monday night and I would put on my cotton full coverage Hanes Her Way because I'm 10, and I would pull them up to make them a G-string thong. I would put a feather in my hair and then I would just strut like a showgirl in front of the TV completely naked, except my little like makeshift Hanes Her Way thong and feather, completely topless. And I would like parade around my living room. My parents were like, oh my God. And so as much as it's like, it's really funny and stuff, it's all I wanted to do. So now getting into burlesque, I always wanted to do a part of that. Like I loved, even as a child, or maybe I was too young and exposed to it, but I really don't think it was. It's no different than like going into a museum and seeing a naked statue, or I think there's a beauty to it and there's like a celebration of the body and blah, blah, blah. But, and it just feels good to feel sexy. I'm not going to lie. Like the confidence is a blast. But I've always enjoyed that idea, even as a young girl. And I wasn't ever thinking like, oh, the sex part of it, because I was, again, too young, but I loved the freedom. I mean, I was like a skinny dipper from day one, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. I hated swimsuits. Like, I think I liked this like freedom in my skin. And so it is something like, even as a kid, I wanted to do. And I always wanted to be an actress, a dancer, a circus performer. Like these are things I saw as a kid and was like, that. And so I'm proud of myself and excited that I'm letting myself do everything and try, because with all of this too, it's scary. It's big risks, when you leave something and you're good at. It's like I walked away from another contract with Cirque du Soleil, and that was a guaranteed job for a year, guaranteed shows, a decent paycheck. And I said, no, thank you. So I could go try this new thing, being stunts, which ended up biting me in the ass and got me up to my 5th concussion and blah, blah, blah. That was a whole different thing. And my brain injury was along, but you know what? I think it was all meant to happen because it's still leading me to where I am now, as cliche as that is. It's even my brain injury, like the year I took off from work. I had to take off from work. I really was not mentally well and physically well. And it was a long journey for me to heal. But the growing process through that, and the changing and the reflection, and the days I cried and the days I was like, I literally think I'd rather be dead. Like I had to go through all that, and it was really hard, but it's made me a more insightful person to myself. And it's given me the strength now to shed more skin and kind of go, fuck it. Like, and I wouldn't have been there had I not done it. And it's, and at least I tried. And I got to a point in my stunt career, like I had big people in the industry reaching out to me, big names. And so it's like, I have to just accept that I know I could have made it had that injury not happen. And I'm letting that be good enough. And I'm like, okay, that's good. But then speaking of being older and, I watch movies and I see someone get hit by a car, fall downstairs, which is all real. I'm like, what was I thinking? Like we were talking about again, our body's hurting. And I'm just like, oh, I'm kind of glad I'm not doing that because ouch. And I'm kind of trying to find a way to, it's as much pain and how much I've slowed down from what I've done so far. And I've taken really good care of my body. I've really ran it into the ground. But now I'm in a industry and with burlesque, it's like, it's more gentle on my body. And I am a very aggressive performer. Like, I mean, I did a performance last week in Hollywood at this bar called No Vacancy. It's a pretty big place. And the manager, when I got off, he's like, wow. Like, he was like, whoa. And my next performance, he goes, don't hurt yourself out there. And I was like, I know, I'm really intense. Like, I was like, even something so, he's like, normally they're used to like a real slow striptease and you just like, bam. And I was like, that's just who I am. So even with this, I'm still finding ways to like potentially hurt myself. But it is generally, versus like martial arts, fighting, stunts, falling out of buildings, flying around 60 feet in the air in the circus, it's still more gentle on my body. So it is kind of nice too, that I'm finding something I could grow into and do for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. And well, talking a little bit about your burlesque show and kudos, like you said, to your first performance of that must have been very exciting.
It was such a last minute, it's one of these things I've been talking about doing burlesque for so long. Like I want to say even when I lived in Vegas, which was before the pandemic, I was always like, I want to do burlesque. Stunts was next, but I've always talked about burlesque and I do a lot of pinup modeling. So I kind of already had, the vintage aesthetic and I was always drawn to it. But in the last year, I was like, I'm going to do it. And I kept talking the talk, but made no, it's still, I think that's part of the journey in manifesting is talking about it first. You have to talk about it enough that you go, okay. And then one day I forget what kind of lit that fire that I was like, I need to buy some costume pieces. So I started ordering different pieces and then got some fringe. I was like, oh, I'll connect that, but never got around to it. And then I was like, oh, I need to set aside time. And I'd play in my living room and I need to work on this act. And I saw what I wanted, but I could just never get to it. And it still isn't what I ended up performing last week, still isn't what I envisioned to the full. I'll always want something better. That's just the truth. I'll always want better. But it kind of was this thing, but I finally kind of got my costume and I made a couple Instagram reels and I was like, screw it. I'm putting it out there. And I keep telling people more and more burlesque. Cause I'm like, it's just, the universe will align if I just keep putting it out there. So I made some burlesque reels and then this girl reaches out to me and says, hey, I didn't realize you did burlesque. I need coverage for a gig on Friday. And I was
wow.
And it was, and I kept saying, I was like, I need to book a gig, even though I don't feel ready. And I'm really not ready to my standards again. I need to just book something so it gives me a deadline. It gives me a date because I was just pussyfooting around with when you have personal projects, there's no one saying, hey, the assignment's due Friday. And so I was like, I really need that. And literally like the next day that happened and it was like in 2 days. And I was like, this is too soon. I'm not ready. And it's funny because this is exactly what happened. A completely different caliber and level. But whatever, with Cirque du Soleil, my dream show was the show I did, the Beatles Love Show. And my role was like my dream role. And I was training on straps specifically in hopes that one day I could do that role. And I was training one day and someone was like, hey, the girl's leaving. You should email casting. And I was free. I was like, I'm not ready. Wow. I need at least 2, if not 3 more months to perfect these tricks. And I was just like, and he kind of like, you're ready. And it's now, you got to go now. And I didn't, I ended up getting it, And so I'm really good if you throw me in with the sharks. And I kept just being like, I need to be thrown in with sharks. And then lo and behold, it was a lot sooner than I thought. I was thinking it would be like 2 weeks out. I had to come up with a whole second costume I didn't have. Thank God it's Halloween. So there were so many stores to like run around and put together. And I just drove around like listening to my 2 songs over and over and over and over and over, and it kept me up at night for 2 days. And it's the thing with this is it's not that high stakes. I was like, at the end of the day, I'm stripping. People will be happy to see like tits and ass. Like it, it is what it is. And I'm professional enough. And whoever's listening, you have to remember too, it's and my friend reminded me of this when I was like, I'm not ready. I'm so underprepared. I don't like being this person. They were like, you've prepared your whole life. You're a professional entertainer.
That's true. Yeah.
I already have the tools in my bag to go up on stage and entertain the fuck out of whoever's watching me, no matter what I'm doing. Absolutely. And I can say that confidently. I used to be very like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And I still feel that way, but I finally got the confidence of like, I've put in the hours of performing. I've done, and I used to be in the show in Vegas Fantasy as well, which is the topless show I did for a short time. So it's like, I've even done, I've
the stepping stone was there. Yeah,
exactly. I've literally been in a titty show before, and it's, it was a dance show, but still and I know the art of tease, and I did a lot of burlesque shows in New York over about a decade ago, and I did my Silks act, and these girls were burlesque dancing, and in between I would do it, but it was a sexier version. And so I know how to tap in. I'm actually more comfortable performing in that element with myself and my sensuality, if you will, than I am the happy cheesy go, which is ironic because I'm at Disneyland right now, and I'm like, I was there the night before my burlesque performance, and I was entertaining 5-year-olds being like, yeah, jump around, whoa, go like this, blah. And then in between my sets, I was downstairs and I brought all my stuff, my corset and this, that, and I was practicing like stripping it off over my like cheesy 5-year-old Disney outfit. And I was like going from 5-year-olds to adults nightlife. But I mean, the one Broadway show I did was Rock of Ages, which half the show I played a stripper. And it's like, I have more fun in that element in that sitting in that with myself, and I know that, and it's a blast because, like I said, it's tits and ass. Everyone's having a good time, like
and that's what it's all about. The burlesque shows, right?
Exactly. It's a fun. Some people are like brilliant comedians with it, and they're comedy burlesque. I like kind of going really old school and very tease, and I kind of tap into this. Something takes over, and I'm very aggressive and intense. I'm not going to lie, but I probably could come up with like a cutesy act if I wanted to, but that's just not my energy. But when this came, it's just, I knew I had to trust myself, but I had friends and, do you want us to come? And I was like, nope. And I really didn't tell anyone I was doing it until I was already there. I was like, I just need to go by myself and rip this Band-Aid off and do it. And now I regret because no one really filmed, and I'm like getting like clips that I can on Instagram. Okay. I've literally reached out to people that tagged the bar that were there that night. And I was like, hey,
did you record girl. Me?
Did you record? And I got a couple of clips from one girl that I stalked, and another one's like, oh, that's my friend. So
you stalked.
I'm trying to like find who was there that night on Instagram, which is so crazy how you can do that. And I'm like getting what I can, but it's okay because I needed to go do it with no pressure by myself. And once I got to the bar, I was like, oh, the stakes are so low. Like first of all, everyone at the bar was so young. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Everyone looks so young. It's like, kids, go to bed. But I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I could just walk on. I know my abilities. And I was like, if I just walk on and do my dead stare and just take off one piece of clothing, I know I'll have them. And it's not that deep. It's not dangerous. It's not like a service performance where if every single thing, I'm so nervous because not only is it, I don't really get stage fright, but the, first time you do a show, it's like, but that's like, you could die or really injure yourself where I'm, in this situation, I'm like, I'm not going to die. It's worst case. Like if I fall on my ass, whatever, it'll be a funny story. And you know how many shows in my life I have fallen and like, you just hair whip and snake out of it. And people are like, you fell? I'm like, oh yeah, you didn't see me like eat shit. And like, so I'm also trust myself to like get out of those situations. I know how to fake it. And so, but I was really happy to just have that Band-Aid ripped off, and I did it. And I've been needing this thing for so long. I've been very stuck lately. The last 2 years, really since my injury, it's like, I would think I'm getting out of it, and I'd be at a new show at Disney and I'm like, yay. And then I'm like, oh, I'm stuck here and this isn't fulfilling me. And I don't want to be screaming at 5-year-olds. Like, this isn't fun. And I'm waiting tables now for the first time in my life. I'm working at a restaurant, and it's, it's an interesting time for me, but I've been needing this thing to feel excited. And once I started working on my burlesque act, I was like, oh, I'm like excited. I felt that spark again, but it was just still, I needed that deadline. I was kind of, again, pussyfooting around. So I'm glad I kind of got it up, and it gave me the confidence now to reach out. I sent out probably today 10 emails to places in LA that I'll do burlesque, and I'm really going to start pushing it because I'm like, now that I performed at this bar that all the other girls perform at, I have some clips I sent. But man, I got off of my first show because I did 2 shows that night, 2 different acts, and I went backstage and I haven't felt that kind of a high in a very long time. And it felt like home, like being on, and it's the stage they have there. It's like an old house, and you perform on the porch. It's still stage, and there's an audience, and that I've been lacking that, like, this is going to sound weird, but other performers might understand it. The love from an audience, and it might sound narcissistic. It might sound egotistical, like they love me, and there's a part of that, but I don't know. There's something, it's more than that. And it's an energy exchange.
Exactly.
And it's you, at least me as a performer, I give so much, even when I'm at fucking Disney jumping around for the toddlers. Like, I mean, my managers have been like, you're 50% shows, everyone else is 100% show. And I'm like, I know, like, I go on stage and bleed out my guts. And so, and it's my pleasure. I love it. I honestly, it's almost this like meditative, like I leave my body and something just happens. And the love back from the crowd, no matter what show I'm doing, but that energy exchange is like, puts me on such a high. And that love from strangers, it's so bizarre because obviously I know no one. And that love that I get from them, it's like, in a weird way, deeper sometimes than any romantic love I could have, family love. It's very different. It's not safe. It's not comfortable. It's not the things that are actually like real, which can get tricky. And I think a lot of performers and big performers, I mean, even like, I don't know if you saw the new Elvis movie, there's a moment of, he's obviously cheating a lot and stuff, but he's kind of going around kissing the girls as he's leaving stage, and he's just can't get enough of the crowd love. And Priscilla's there kind of like, and I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, this is a really real moment. No, obviously that's at a much higher level, but I think a lot of people that really high kind of rock star level, it gets confusing, the real at home love versus the on-stage love, but they're very different. And you can't really touch that on stage love. It's so, and so I was, oh gosh, I finally, like, I literally was in the room and I was like, I'm alive. I feel like I've been dead and I feel like I'm alive again.
That's awesome.
And and so it's just, I've been really looking for that thing, and I don't know exactly where I'm going with it, to be honest. This is also part of this reinvention and this turn I've taken. And I'm kind of, I deliberately turned down this street, but now I feel like I'm kind of wandering down the street. My GPS is broken for the first time in my life. Honestly, I never knew what was next. As a performer, it's like, I don't know what contract's next. There's always a stress of like, this ends in 6 months. I don't know what's next. But I always kind of had a general goal moving forward. I'm going to go back to New York. I'm going to train my ass off. I'm going to go to these auditions, hopefully book A, B, or C. And then once I circus, it's like, I know if I don't have a job, I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to train those 2 tricks until my hands bleed. And I would do it. And right now I kind of wake up and I'm like, and I'm like, I should work out. And I used to be like Miss Fitness USA. And I'm like, I don't really want to. I'm really tired. And I guess I got to go to my restaurant shift. And I'm like, what the hell is like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And it's the first time I like wake up and I don't have like these goals, and it's scary. It's uncomfortable for me because I've always had a goal, but I think that's good. I think I find comfort in discomfort. Like, I don't like settling. That's why I've walked away from contracts. That's why, I moved to New York City when I was 18 by myself. I've left the country, really early in age. I've been out of the country by myself. I spent a couple of days in Athens alone and my dad's like, oh my God, you're like 21. And I'm like, oh, I like being scared. And even all my aerial ventures, was terrifying. And auditioning for Cirque du Soleil was terrifying, but it keeps me alive and it keeps me pushing forward. And I've done it since I was a child. So I do like that. And so right now I'm trying to put that in the same, instead of getting hard on myself of, you have no goals, what are you doing? You're just sitting around wasting life. Cause I'm doing a lot of that self-talk. It's not like I'm making this all a positive thing, but this is a struggle right now for me, but I think it's a healthy struggle. And I'm trying to reform it as, no, you're uncomfortable right now because you don't have a path, and it's okay to not know exactly what you're doing, because I've had such an amazing career already. And so it's weird to then take a turn. It's like, okay, so what do I do with the background I have? I'm not done performing. But I'm trying to, I'm taking it as it's a reflective, I talk a lot at my restaurant to my tables, and it's an older demographic. So we end up talking and they kind of get my story, and it's a good, healthy, it's almost like talk therapy as I'm waiting. And a lot of the older people have really good insight for me. And
oh, that's cool.
And it's awesome because they're obviously at a later age in life, and they're like, congratulations, you've done so much. And they're like, it's okay. You're still young, and you're in someone just was like, you're in reflective, insightful period of your life right now. And that's good. And that's what this is for. And going to lead you to the next, or it's, so it's kind of helpful to get that. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. I'm just taking time to look inward and go to the next chapter. And again, I'm getting older. It's not even about like, oh, my body can't keep up, or it's like my lifestyle too. It's the entertainment life is such a hustle, and I'm such a hustler, but I'm exhausted. And it's like, I've woke up at 4 a.m. multiple times in New York City when I was 18, 19 to go line around the block to audition, and then I've sent in so many submissions. They weren't as popular back then, but I would make my dance reel, and it's always this, that, and you live in shitty accommodations because you don't have the money and you're saving the money, and late nights, this, that. And I'm kind of like, I was thinking about doing the Hollywood. I had an agent and I dropped them. And I wouldn't turn down anything. I'd love to do movies, but the quality of my life that I now want in my 30s doesn't line up to what that takes to go that direction. And I'm like, what's more important, the peak of the mountain or the whole, like the journey? But it really is. It's the journey. And if I'm not enjoying my day-to-day life, like, kill me now, put me in a scene study class with a bunch of actors. I love actors. I still consider myself one, but like, that just sounds awful to me. And going to these like casting director workshops. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, okay, so I don't want to do the work. Cool. Then that's not what I want to do. Cause if you don't enjoy the day-to-day part of it, it's so there was a lot of that evaluation in this kind of new change. And I'm a content creator. I do like creating content. I can be a little lazy with it also because there's no incentive. It's not my job. There's not really money there at the moment, at least, and I know in a lot of people there is, and maybe hopefully one day I can, because I'm really good at creating content and performing for social media. It's annoying as hell that that's a thing, but and I enjoy it. And I like live performing. And so it's, to do TV and dramatic movies, I'm like, that's not really me.
Right.
But
I gotcha.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting to kind of look at the things I thought I wanted, or some things I still do want, but the reality of what that life looks like, and being okay with, I don't want that life. And I'm the quality of my life. It's so that's one thing. And it's kind of cool. Like right now I'm in a season where it's like the first time in my life I'm able to put my social life first and holidays first. I'm out having dinners on holidays or birthdays that I never got to do before. I've got a flourishing relationship, which I never got that before because I was so, single for 7 years. And even if I tried, and I got this thing to do and I knew I was going to move and this, that. And for the first time, I'm like, some job opportunities have come up that would take me out of the state. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that because I'm building something here. And it's it's nice to be able to do that for once. And, I'm doing it a little later in my life. And that's, again, going into this new chapter and new season. I'm letting myself be okay with that instead of having to be this like crazy number one athlete performer my whole life. Cause in my 20s, I thought I would be doing that forever. And I remember thinking I'd be so disappointed if I stopped. And now I'm like, no, bitch, I'm tired. And there's times I think, I'm like, if my 20 something year old self could see me now, and I had a lot of issues when I was younger, it helped me push forward so incredibly strong. And I think I got a lot of the positions I did because of how hard I worked myself on the ground. But like, I wasn't eating properly. I was over training like to a max. I was obsessive about my training and diet. Like that's all I thought about. That's not healthy. So now, I'm getting older and I'm again giving myself more grace. I'm giving my body more grace. And, my thighs look different than they used to in certain areas, but I'm very comfortable for the first time in my life in my body right now. And I'm like, it's so funny if my 22-year-old self, 23-year-old self saw myself in certain like this, so I could squeeze here or see stretch marks or cellulite here. I'm like, I would be so disappointed, but I laugh at it. And I'm like, I take it. I'm like, this is so cool how far I've grown from that mindset. And burlesque is an awesome way that's really helped me as well, get more comfortable into my body. Cause my body is very different than it was in the circus. I was very upper body Helga strong. And then before that, I was very unhealthily skinny and ripped. And I just have a very, and it's, again, I'm getting older and my body's kind of gaining weight in places that it should, because it's like, we're supposed to have babies. And like, and I'm also like eating, and it's awesome. I'm
You're
going
eating,
out. And
that's good.
It's fun. It's fun. I'm enjoying myself. And I'm like, a French fry? Yes. Or steak dinner. And I'm going to have beer at Oktoberfest and not feel guilty or go run it off. And it's nice. I'm really, as much as I'm very lost and I'm having a lot of these, like, I feel like a loser. I feel like I fucked up. I do battle with all these. At the same time, I can stop though. And I'm like, but I'm really enjoying myself. And I think just being is okay. And so there's a lot of that. My concussion helped me through a lot of that. And I had to struggle with that too, that just like being alive, I am enough, because I didn't feel that. I mean, I remember one time my dad's like, hey, we're going to go to dinner on Friday. Do you want to come? We're going to take mom. And it was, I want to say early on in my concussion recovery, but I was like, I don't feel like I deserve to go. And he's like, to dinner? And I was like, I don't feel like I deserve to go to dinner because I haven't done anything. Like, I can't go out. Like, I haven't worked. I haven't earned anything. I haven't trained. I haven't. And so it's like, it made me realize, I was like, oh, I don't feel like I'm enough just being. And a lot of that is tied in with my being raised in the ballet dancer entertainment world, and then going into that as my career. My self-worth has been my physical abilities and my appearance. I get jobs off of that. Even friends, oh my God, if you meet new people and then you say, oh, I do this, or I'm a circus artist. Oh, and then all of a sudden they want to be your friend because that's cool. And I get it. I do it to people. We all do it to each other. We, find someone's value go up in, what they do, or, and it's just a part of it. And it is a truth, but also my image. I mean, once I lost a ton of weight when I was in my 20s, everyone's like, oh my God, you look amazing. And I started booking all these shows, and I would get off stage on the cruise ships and people be like, oh my God, you're the girl with like the 12-pack abs. Cause I was just like stupid ripped. And it was like, oh, I'm getting attention. I'm getting positive reinforcement from that. Even my parents would be like, oh my God, you look amazing. And I was so fucking thin. It was stupid. But and I didn't eat shit. I like lived off oatmeal and like protein powder because I was so paranoid about counting everything. No, it's terrible. Like I like messed up my thyroid and my hormones were like out of whack forever. But it, even in relationships, it's like even when I first started dating, I broke up with my ex when I was like 25. I just started Cirque and I got on the dating apps. I'd never done them before. And I think that's how I got people in was, well, I'm a circus girl. And it was like, I was a novelty, and it was like, oh, that's all they care about.
Okay. Yeah,
and I was like, I think that was even a hard thing. And I was like, well, if I don't do this thing, who am I? What am I? I'm worthless. So it's interesting. I've gotten myself through a lot of that. And luckily I'm with someone that's awesome and very supportive of what I want to do, but he's like, I don't care about that. And I'm like, wait, I'm enough. Like, just me being here. I don't have to be like, look what I did. I can put my leg behind my head. And he's like, I don't care. I mean, sometimes he does, but we'll go together. But you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just that. And I think a lot of us struggle with, I mean, that's a very classic theme of a lot of people's internal conflict is not being enough. I'm not good enough. And social media and all that bullshit does not help, because
does not. Absolutely.
I mean, I even did it the night before I did my first act. I was like, I want to see what the venue, I had never been there. I was like, I kind of want to get an idea of where I'm performing. So I was looking at like that, people that have tagged it, and so all the burlesque dancers that had performed there before. And so I started watching little clips and I said, oh fuck, her body's so much better than mine. Oh my God, her costume's better. She really is like, she knows what she's doing, this, that. And I got in my head and I was just like, fuck, what am I doing? And then I did it. And the guy that's seen all of them was like, holy shit. And I was like, oh, I forgot. I'm a professional entertainer. I do this. It's so weird though. It's so bizarre. Like I have such imposter syndrome, and I have ever since I was a kid, where I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here.
I struggle with imposter syndrome quite a bit. So it's weird to hear you say that, someone who is a professional entertainer who's been through your career, just spans so many different genres and so many different things. To hear you say that you struggle with that too is, I don't want to say it's reassuring, but it makes me feel like, oh, okay, maybe it's not just me. It's,
I get it. I get reassurance too. Like when I listen to celebrities interviews and this, that, and anyone says they feel that way, I'm like, oh, okay, well, if they feel that way, not saying that like, I'm on no pedestal that like, but it's just nice to know that we don't feel alone. Like even hearing that you feel like that, I'm like, okay, cool. It's not just, it's, I think that's why it's important for people to talk about it. And then, for, to listen to people's interviews, or I love listening to other podcasts. And I think humans need to not feel alone and be able to connect, because it's important. And it's such imposter syndrome. I can't believe how many people have it. And I'm like, oh, like literally all of us don't feel like we belong, and we all are just like making it up and pulling it out of our ass. Cause that's like, I feel like been my whole career where I'm like, if I just keep going and put enough sequins on, they won't know. And I did. It got to a point then that I remember like I trained hard enough. And I remember a couple of days I'd like see like training videos of myself. I'm like, holy shit, like I'm getting good. And, but the journey there, it was so crazy. I got my first serving job this summer at a 5-star resort at the pool. And I was like, how the hell did I get this job? I've never served in my life, but bullshit at the interview. And
that's all you do.
My background, I was like, I'm going to throw you a curveball. I have no serving experiences, but I'm listening to how my Cirque du Soleil training is going to be. Like, I'm a key player. And he's like, well, okay, you're hired. But if I like messed up in the beginning, like I had imposter syndrome as a server.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, like I'm messing up. These other people have worked in restaurants. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, God, even a serving job, I feel that way. And then from there, I got a job at a restaurant, and I went through it there. I went through a couple of weeks where I was just like, I feel like they're like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. And they weren't like, they were so nice. But it was all in my head being projected. And then every time my manager says something, I'm like, oh my God, he hates me. And I'm like, there's no reason to think that. Like, it's just all insecurities. And so it's not even just on stage. It's like, even at a fucking restaurant serving, it's a Greek restaurant, like serving falafel and hummus. I'm like, you're not good enough. And I'm like, it's so crazy though.
It is. That's wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I feel better now, oddly.
Good. If I can make one person feel better, then I've done my job. But no, it's a very real thing. And yeah, not being good enough. And I struggle with that even too. And compare, I'm good at not comparing myself to other people until I'm not, and it's other girls. I'm just like, oh my God, they're perfect. And I know it's all fake, but it's hard not to get caught up in it. It's so, you're swiping and especially too in relationships, it's hard not to be insecure at certain points. And it doesn't keep me up at night. It doesn't ruin, that can literally ruin friendships and romantic relationships, but it's still there for me.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh gosh, it's, and I know, not in a cocky way at all. It's literally just from my DMs. And I know on the flip side, I've gotten messages, from strangers that are like, you're the most perfect woman I've seen on the internet. And that's the nice one. I'm giving you the G-rated.
The G-rated version.
They get crazy. And I get it. The content I put out there, I attract a very specific group of fetish followers, and it's totally fine, with my kicking and the heels. But
wow, I didn't even think about that. That's true.
Oh, okay. Goodness, yes. Oh goodness, yes. I get interesting DMs, but even if someone just like a random stranger, I've got people that like I've seen their comments over and over, and some of my followers, I'm like, oh, okay, I know who they are. But they'll compliment me in fire films, and sometimes I like forget. I'm like, I'm looking at someone else going, oh God, they're so hot, or I bet everyone wants her. And then I'm like, but I'm sure that's how other women look at my page.
Oh.
And going, look at all the comments she gets, and oh my God, she has it all, and I'm getting the attention, but that doesn't all seem real. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not me. Yeah, but
right.
I have a filter to make my skin look perfect. Yeah, it's just like I still don't take it as real, and so it's like my real interactions or what. Yeah, it's interesting. It's not, like I said, like terrible, but it's there. No, it's it's there. So that's something I think that I'll always have to deal with, and I think that's just me growing up in like the ballet world. You're kind of never enough, and you're always striving for the director, choreographer's attention, and you're really put down. And it's like a sick, mental, demented way that they twist you in ballet. Ballet's so messed up. Like, I'm so grateful for my background, but like when I really sit and think about things, I'm like, I was a child and I wasn't good enough. It just, it's very interesting. So, but
it seems like you're thriving now, even if you're out of the pressure cooker, so to speak.
Thanks.
So that's really cool to see. I wanted to go back real quick to your burlesque act.
Yes.
So you said you're still fine tuning it in a way.
Oh yeah.
How is it different that you're like the choreographer, the performer, it's really like a one-man show, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of exhausting. It's like fun. I mean, it's fun to have full creative range. And to be honest, like a lot of it was kind of like improv when I did it. Nothing was like set choreography. I had like certain musical cues where I'm like, okay, I know I want to like have this taken off by then. This will be the glove coming off. I want my corset off by here because I want to do this move only in the bra and skirt. And like, I kind of like had that format. And then there were certain things like within my workshop living room play, I would find movements or like beats and hits and I'd keep that. But then because every space is different in burlesque, like you're never just on a stage. Some places are stages, but a lot of it's like a bar and it's like you can dance on the bar. You can do crowd work. This one's no crowd work. This had like a porch with a stage balcony thing and rails. And so it's like, until I got out there, I didn't know how. I just improv. I was like, I would kind of be doing something and look over and be like, I'm going to put my leg on that. Or during my first act, I remember being like, the second number, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to use that more and I'm going to slide down the rail of the stair. And then I did. And so it was very like improv at the moment.
Oh, that's cool.
Flourish, but I had kind of like a skeleton, but back to like getting started and that fire in my ass, needing it and kind of, it was a little overwhelming to do it all. I kind of was like, I wish someone would just help me. I wish someone would like help me with my costume, or I wish someone would just give me like a little bit of like, oh, you should do that here. And then I can do the rest. Or it's because, sometimes I doubt my creative capability. And again, it's never good enough. And I want it to be better, but I just have to trust myself. And I'm also a little rusty. Like I'm not in dance classes and I'm not, so it's interesting. I'll continuously do the same movements over and over because you just kind of get in this like weird rhythm when I like freestyle. And so that's been like really good for me though, to just move in my living room. I set up the music, I film everything so that I can go back and I'm like, oh, that actually looked really good. And then I kind of start expanding my movement vocabulary, if you will. Cool. So that's kind of how I've worked on it. And I'm sure I still will. I mean, I don't know the next booking I'm going to have, hopefully soon, but I'm like, this could sit for a while and then I will be like, oh my God, I forget everything I did, or, which could be good or bad. I think it'll constantly be changing. And again, like I said, because every venue, and then eventually I'll have to come up with something new because, I'll need a new costume. And my hopes is to grow, be successful enough that I can start investing back in myself. Like I hope I can book big enough gigs that I can start getting the costumes I want and the more elaborate, like the women that have just like completely Swarovski crystal corsets, I like drool over them. I'm like, that's what I want. And that's what burlesque is. It's not just about, it is the movement, it's the tease, it's the strip, it's the presentation, but it's also like part of that is the costuming and these over the top beautiful. And so like, I want that. And it's like, I'm on my budget of waiting tables and not, and it's like, so I hope it can grow in the way that I want it to. And my dream, and I guess it's finally cool. It's like a goal in the next year is I would love to get big enough per se that like I could start booking out, like, oh, I'm going to fly to New York for the weekend and I'm booking 3 different shows there. So I'm like, I'm in New York this weekend and I'm booking, and then I can go down to New Orleans and like almost make my own little tour. It would probably cost me at first because I have to pay for, they're not going to put you up. And maybe that's a lie. I need to dream big and manifest big that somewhere will go, hey, we'll fly you out or at least put you up. And, I got Southwest points. So what? But and then I can just kind of start expanding in the US and doing a couple weeks out, a couple weeks home, a week out. Like I've thought about it. And as much as I like hated being on tour in ways, having a home base is different. I hope I can start moving around with it and expanding.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And if I could, biggest dream ever, like if I could be another Dita Von Teese, I would absolutely take it. And then I would love to expand and then open my own company. I'm like already a mini goal is like by next year, I want to have my own LLC and start paying myself and doing everything that way. Also taxes are way better, but, and then maybe start booking out events where then I can hire my friends. And then I'm starting to be the owner and I'm costuming people and booking the entertainment for big galas and parties and, and with this burlesque undertone, and I can perform until it gets stupid. And I'm like, okay, no one's too old to perform, but Dita's the exception because I think she's like 50, but we all want to see her. But you know what I mean? Like until I kind of age myself out and go, okay, I need to let now the youth do it. But that's a way I could see myself going. And I like it. It keeps me in entertainment and it keeps me in my element, which is live entertainment. That was one thing. It's just, as much as I do love content creation, but when I think about Hollywood and this, that, and I do like doing a scene over and over and the movie magic and green screen, I think it's awesome. But I've been on stage my whole life, and that's like a live audience. It goes back to that love affair with the audience. It's nothing touches that high. And I'm like, that's what I love.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't want to live in LA, Vegas, or New York, which is where the only places live performing is. But that's why I'm kind of hoping I can get to a point where I can bring it places, and then I can just fly and book out, and then I can end up living wherever I want.
See, you have a game plan.
I have a game plan.
You didn't, but you do.
But it's coming together. It's taking a while, and it's not even just the career plan. It's like the life, going back to like the quality of life, and going, okay, this is what I want career-wise, but I'm still figuring out like how I want my day-to-day to look like, and what's important to me, and what sacrifices I am and am not willing to make anymore, that I totally was like, without a question, would make all the sacrifices when I was younger. And I'm glad I did. And that was the time to do it. But cool. So it's kind of cool curating, and it's fun to do it in fringe and fishnets. Like I said, tits and ass, no one's mad at it. I'm making the world a better place with fringe and fishnets and nipple tassels.
You're putting the bright light out into the world.
You know what? It's making someone smile, and that's what we need is I want to put things out that make people smile. So I might not be everyone's cup of tea, and it might offend some people, but it's still tasteful. It's still an art, and
it is an art. Absolutely.
It makes people happy. It makes me happy. So
there you go. Win-win. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a friend in high school who did a lot of burlesque, and I know she took a stage name on for when she did that. Is that something you're contemplating at all?
Yes, it is. It's been like the text thread of my family for the last week or so. My mom's been killing me with names. She's been cracking me up. I can't take it. Yeah, I am, because at first I was just going to be myself, but everyone's like, no, you have to have a burlesque name. And you don't necessarily, like, I still might keep my name, but then like have a play on it. Like maybe my last name changes to something fun, but it's hard because so much has been done already. So getting an original name, but keeping it genuine to yourself. And, it's, I have been messing around, but that might take a while to actually debut.
Okay, that's exciting. Well, when Fringe and Fishnets LLC comes on board.
I know. Actually, when I said that, I was like, maybe that should be my LLC. Fishnet.
There you go. When that comes on board, we'll be sure to look up what you chose your stage name to be.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure I'll blast it all over Instagram, and it'll, be there. I don't think I'll create another account for it. That just gets obnoxious and exhausting. Yeah. I can barely handle the one. I have other accounts, and I can't. I don't know why I can't keep up with it. I was like, do TikTok. I'm like, no way. Instagram's enough.
Well, very cool. Well, one last question I have for you that I like to ask all of our guests, even returning guests, is in the pop culture world, because we are a pop culture podcast. What are you currently watching, listening, reading to in your spare time when you're not creating?
Yeah, I've been so bad at reading right now. Like, I bought a book months ago, probably, unfortunately, over 5 months ago. And I think I'm not even page 50 something. I go through seasons where I will read every day and power through books. And then I'll take half a year and I just don't read.
Yeah,
and
I hear you.
It's just whatever. It is what it is. But the book I still really want to read it. And the first 50 pages had me laughing my ass off, but it's Mel Brooks' memoir.
Oh, yes. I want to read that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's starting off great. His childhood stories. I grew up on Mel Brooks. I absolutely love Mel Brooks. So I love reading memoirs. That's kind of what I stick to when it comes to books. So that's what I'm reading. Podcasts. I always listen to Jay Shetty's podcast on purpose. It's a little more. He's got awesome celebrities on, but he used to be a monk, but he's really down to earth and cool. He's not super spiritual. He's now the number one health podcast in the world. And he's a big multimedia. So even though he was a monk, he still is I love fashion. I love this. And but he has that insightful, and he lived the life, and him and his wife are just adorable. But he'll have, not that I'm a Kardashian fan. I don't know why they're the first example, but he's had some of them on. Will Smith. He's Will Smith's teacher. I know he's had a lot of celebrities. He's had a lot of doctors, people number one booksellers. So anytime he has a guest on, even if it's someone I'm really one of the Kardashians on, I was and the interview is amazing. I trust him. He has 2 books out. So I've read both of his books. Love him. So my podcast is more my insightful time.
Right.
it's kind of, I like the interviews that make me think. And so that's that. And then, I just was binge watching all my Halloween movies this week. So
nice.
Nothing. I'm really not watching like a series. I did watch Narcos like 2 weeks ago, the first season, and I loved it. But I'm trying to think, I'm so behind on movies too. Like I can't believe I haven't seen the Barbie movie. I haven't seen the new Indiana Jones. Like I just missed, where the hell is time gone? Like I'm still tripping. I'm like, so I have a lot of catching up to do, but TV, what do I turn on when I'm home by myself? I put on a lot of movies that I've seen a million times. That's something
it's
I
like
do
comfort
a lot.
films, right? Just have in the background. It's a good friend that you're just listening to. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I did watch, it's a really bad show. It's on HBO. I'll go back to that. But there's this show, it's been on for a while, I guess, but it's called Naked Attraction. And it's an awful, like British, one person comes on and there's like 6 people and they just like are naked and they choose off of that. And it's absolutely awful. But when I was getting home late from different shifts, I'm like, I need something stupid and mindless. And I was like, I'm just going to watch 6 dicks presented to me. I'm not, you know what, let's go. And I was ending my days a couple nights like that. Vaginas too, they had girls too. I'm not discriminating. Tits and ass. It was kind of just a stupid fun show. But then I watched last month, this is also a few years old, but The Secrets of Playboy, the documentary on Playboy that came out I highly recommend it. I was interesting, really bad, but addicting. It's sad. It's bad. There's a lot of shit. You're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that was going on. It's worse than you think it is. I'm going to say that it's worse than you think it is, but it was really interesting. And it went from 60s Playboy, 70s Playboy to Holly Madison has her own episode. And it was really interesting to kind of, now that he's dead, people are like, time to talk.
Yeah.
And these poor women, some of them that are in their 70s are just like, my life is ruined because of it. And not, the emotional and actually physical abuse they went through. His girlfriend from like the 70s has a whole episode, and her episode's really sad too, because it's but it's really good. So that's what I've been diving into, I guess.
Sounds great. I'll have to look those up. I mean, I saw the Naked Attraction, but I didn't watch it. It's honestly terrible. It's like not worth it. It's like if you just want something really dumb, it's fun to watch like 2 episodes just because it's if you want to laugh. Yeah. It's just fun for a good laugh, but I'm not going to continue watching it. Like, I'm like, okay, that was served its purpose. As soon as we get off of here, I know what you're going to go watch. It's okay.
Naked Attraction.
Exactly.
A big bowl of food and watch naked people. Yeah, why not?
Well, Gelsey, thank you so much for spending some time with us today to chat about your career, where you're going, and you say you don't have a game plan, but I think you do. I think I kind of came together on this episode. Honestly, this episode helped. I was like, I'm saying it right now, and it's kind of forming. Oh, cool. And I look forward to seeing everything that you put out. And it's it's always wonderful chatting with you. So thank you so much. Yeah, you too. God, thank you so much for having me on again.